Schumann's Intermezzo from his Faschingsfunk aus Wien. It's the fourth of 5 movements, and he composed this the year before he finally married his beloved Clara Wieck. They were in love for 10 years and did not have permission to marry until she turned of age, and they married the day before she turned 21. This piece was written when he was longing for her. They weren't married yet. He was starving for her, and it's impassioned. It's in E flat minor. That's a tricky key. 6 flats. Let me show you that scale. In the harmonic minor. How does he build in the passion on this? If we take just the left hand alone, it sounds, starting on the tonic of E flat, that sounds almost more like B flat minor. So there's ambiguity in that left hand bass line. On your chart, I actually wrote in capital letters the letter notes of every bass note with arrow direction, because it's such an important part to learn. Learn it as a standalone part and be able to sing that as a separate melody. Know it that well. I know you can read these notes, their names, but it's a mnemonic. It's a reminder, oh, I really need to put this in my brain. Now over that bass line, he does the melodic line, and in the key of E flat minor, B flat is our 5th, our dominant. He begins the melody on the 5th and leaps up to the tonic. Agitato. It's storming. It's already just breathless. But to make it really agitato and to build in the turmoil, he adds a 3rd part. And this is a remarkable composition because with 3-part writing, the left hand takes the bass line, the right hand takes the soprano melodic line, and the middle part is shared by the 2 hands. And that writing of the shared hand, I call it a hinged part, is a remarkable contribution to this piece. It makes it fun to play, and it also adds a lot of dissonance. If I take the right hand with my 1st chord, actually that is a 2nd inversion of my E flat minor. Do you hear what he's doing? He's building in a minor 2nd, that's a half step, as close as you can get on the keyboard. Isn't that gorgeous? And when we put those all together, listen for those half steps in the middle. Measures again. That first part of the piece has 8 measures altogether. Now, before we get any farther along, I'd like to show you what you get in your chart is a satellite view of the entire piece. I am absolutely thrilled to be able to offer this to you. It made such a difference in my life and in the lives of my students learning it. Mine is all color-coded here. You can see I have blue boxes here for the A section. There are 3 A sections and they all have 8 measures. There are 2 B sections which I put in green boxes. Those have 7 measures, very interesting. And then the C section is in a whole other key, and it has a completely new melodic distribution of material. Very, very fascinating. I can't wait to share that part with you. Your satellite view comes without colors like this, completely plain and pristine. So the piece is in 6 big sections. Now what's so fabulous about your chart, those 6 sections are distributed between 3 big boards. These are on the size of 11 by 17. Section A is this, section B is this. That's page 1. Page 2 is an exact repeat of our section A. You can actually put the boards like this, like giant flashcards, and you can compare. I had it lined up engraved this way, so with the protractor you can compare and see, oh yes, it is really all the same. The only difference, and pay attention to this please, at the end of the second repetition of our A section, we have an octave here in the left hand, and the first time it's a single note. That is one of the big differences, and the other difference is where we're going. At the end of our second page, we're modulating to B flat major. All right, I'd like to get a little bit now into the B section here, and what you have in your supplies, and this is an example of what these things, when you print them out on an 8.5 by 11 for your supplemental study purposes. They print very beautifully. This is a voice dialogue practice addendum for the B sections, and I just think this is a wonderful way of learning. I had to learn this piece rather recently, even though I've taught it for decades. I finally had to learn it and memorize it. And memorizing puts a whole nother set of parameters into our needs for practicing. So what I did is to take with that hinged part, with the right and the left and the right, blue circles. So let's start at measure 9 on our addendum, and we're going to compare the 2 B sections. And this is how I like to practice this. In blocked chord with the right hand. Listen to that chord. That's a diminished chord. It's tight. Now up to an F major. Now that is the key thing to follow. This dissonance arriving on the 9th. Now let's look at the second B section. It's identical, it's just up a 4th, and that sounds like this. Here's the important leap. When you get that in your ears and you start to anticipate it, you'll play it with such freedom, and you'll bring that part out. So as written, the first time would be this is this leap, a leap of a 7th. It's so beautiful. 5th. Another 5th. And those are circled in pink. So you want to really practice them as separate parts and know them absolutely cold as a separate part. Same thing over here. Going from here to here. I recommend that you eyeball that. That's 7th. Look at the key, going from the black to the white. That's tricky. You don't want to miss that. All right, and what follows that? End of the B section. Page 1 is A and B. Now page 2, A and B. Something very interesting happens on our page 2 here of the chart, and I'd like to now draw your attention to another addendum. This chart is bulging with addendums and supplemental material because I felt it was necessary. Each one of these addendums, I'll just share with you, came about as I was teaching the piece, and my student would have problems here. Now, what is so tricky about the end of this line here on page 2? And the answer is there is a hidden melodic line in the hinged part. And that line sounds like this. And as it sounds in context of the piece, time it comes in measure 35, it's up a fourth. Now we're going to talk about that very, very, very important final section, the last 1/6 of the piece, the C section. And as you can see, I put this in a pink box here. Now, this is really the part in the piece where I have seen countless of performers have memory lapses. It's just a difficult thing to get your mind around until you see the construction of this is really different than the rest of the piece. And right now I want to get out our page 3 and show you. Do you remember how the piece began? With the rising? Well, he uses that motive again for our C section. I call this the farewell section. And he starts in the soprano. See, it's different. Looking at this section here, what I did is to take the beginning as an upbeat, a separate hanging measure, because the counts here are the access to this section. This played is 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Next system, this time in the tenor, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. If you play this together, a little bit different. You need to know those very well. Notice that this is an open measure here. There's no bar line. This is an open measure because these 3 beats and that make the full measure. These 3 and that, full measure, and likewise to the end. Looking at the larger blow-up, this is your final addendum, and I'll show you today. This one I made in the large 11 by 17 size because I wanted to go into a little bit more detail now on how to practice this. This is going to be the best thing for you in really putting all of these parts in a logical way in your understanding and in your hearing. So let's notice that the soprano line is in the pink box, starting. And like I said here, the tenor answers on the next system. This is circled in blue. And the soprano finishes the piece. This is really saying goodbye. 5, 1, 1, 5. And listen to how stunningly beautiful and peaceful this sounds with the E flat major. We are so not expecting that. That's what this whole thing is doing. It's ushering in a surprise modulation to the parallel E flat major. Before I play that actually as a finished product, I'd like to show you how I practice the bass in green and the tenor in blue with redistribution. I take the left hand with the green and the right hand with the blue circled notes, and I play them together. And this way I can bring out one hand much louder than the other and then reverse it and really hear the dialogue. Listen, let me show you how this sounds. Now let me reverse the dynamic. Things there. What is it that makes that difficult? It's all with the left hand. So if I play this now, just the left hand, there's our motive, 5-1. Notice there's a sforzando on that. We don't want to miss that. Going on, second system. Did you hear that again? Remember how I said that the piece is built on a hinged part between the right hand? At the coda here, which is the C section, that becomes all with the right hand. There's no more hinging. So let's take a look now. The right hand has the two parts, the melodic line and the supporting harmony underneath. Let me play the supporting harmonies. These are all... I block them first so you can hear what the notes really sound like as a chord. There's going to be a lot of moving around here. This is hard to learn. This is really a wonderful technique for learning this and accurately memorizing it. Let's play this with just the middle part as blocked chords, starting measure 38. 2 of these, now move up, 2 of each. Now it gets interesting. This is so beautiful. What care, what thoughtfulness, what beauty. As written. We put the whole thing together. I cannot stress enough the importance of the upbeat. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd like to share one beautiful and relevant thing with you. It's a quote from Clara Schumann. Since this was the reason we have this piece, because of Robert's love for her, she said about music, and she said, what a beautiful gift. What indeed is more beautiful than to clothe one's feelings in sound? I love that. Clothe one's feelings in sound. What a comfort in sad hours. What a pleasure. What a wonderful feeling to provide an hour of pleasure for someone, in her case, her audience. And I'd like to add, what a wonderful feeling for you to give yourself an hour of pleasure practicing this piece. This is for you. And you will be forever altered having this in your heart and in your ears, in your fingers, in your mind. You will be a changed person with this inside of you, and you will expand with the beauty of great art. Happy practicing. Thank you.